Hello everyone, this is the next step for me in my Pirate Raiders game. I know you guys are all used to seeing the game in 2D, but today I'll be showing you the first step of making the game 3D. So as you can see, I have a terrain. This terrain has trees, grass, and rocky hills and mountains, and we're just going to take a ride through it. Let's just see it in action. Don't know if you can hear them or not, but there is music for the game. And you can see the flock of 5. They're able to move forward when I press W. If I press S, they move backwards. If I use the up arrow key, up and down arrow keys, they'll tilt up and down, pitch up and down as one say. And if one wanted to turn left or right, you use the right and left arrow keys, and the flock will turn as 1, shifting to the left. They will bank like an actual airplane does. They will straighten out when I turn the other way, and they will bank the other way if I wanted to turn right. There is grass at the bottom, as you can see. There are trees, and that is the first step for flocking for this 3D game. Let's just take a ride through this. You can see the camera follows the flock. All 5 birds are still able to be seen through the camera. Now, how does this work? There's three main things. Let's start with the flock. We first take in a flock unit prefab with the player. We define our flock size and how big of a spawn bounds we want. In this case, I want a really wide spawn bound of x of 8, but a narrow spawn bounds of z of 3. The movement speed of the bird flock, the rotation speed is 8, the rotation speed is 45, and the pitch speed is 15. So if we go to the actual code of this, we can see that we define all our stuff, but we also have a pitch, yaw, and roll. Pitch be defining how up and down the plane goes, yaw being how it left and right, and roll defining how it banks. At the start, we generate our unit. What does this mean? We go through every unit, we assign a random vector inside a unit sphere of radius 1, and then we say that random vector is equal to that radius unit sphere times the spawn bound that we defined. Basically expanding that unit sphere so that the birds spawn in every spawn bounds vector that we want in every direction. We set our spawn position to be the transform dot position plus the random vector, and we set a rotation of 0, 0, 0 so the plane faces forward. Then we instantiate the prefab at the spawn position and the rotation. How do we update it? We set our pitch to be equal to our pitch speed, which is defined up here, times time.delta time, so that the pitch is determined in terms of seconds instead of frames. It was determined in frames. The plane would move much faster and it would look unrealistic. We do the same thing for yaw and roll. If the up arrow and down arrows are pressed, then we pitch in terms of the x-axis, because that is how the plane moves up and down. If we rotate it via the x-axis, then the plane moves up and down. If we click W, then we set our movement to be equal to the movement speed times time.delta time, and we move in towards the z-axis, because don't know if I can show you or not, but if you were to go to the bird over here, you can see that no matter which direction we rotate it in, we want it to move along its z-axis over here. So even if I was to rotate it like so, we would still want the bird to move in the z-axis. So that is why we only move in the z-axis over here. When we move in the left arrow and right arrow, we get our temporary Euler angle, and then we rotate the yaw on the y-axis and the roll on the z-axis. Notice how one transformation is in world space and one transformation is in self space. This is because when we have 2 rotations on 2 different axes, we don't want them to happen at the same time. Otherwise, they will happen on this unwanted axis over here, which is x, meaning that the plane will spiral downwards or upwards while we try to rotate left and right. We don't want that, so we move it in terms of world space and self space independently. So that's how the bird flock moves. The player movement is very similar to the bird flock movement. Actually, it's exactly the same, with up arrows pitch, down arrow pitch, W and S for moving forward and backwards, and left arrow and right arrow rotations. The camera controller. So the way the camera follows the player is that via a late update, which is basically like a frame or 2 after the player, and the camera distance is defined, we get a transform dot position, which is equal to the player's position minus its forward position times the camera distance, basically setting up where the camera should be. We set a transform.lookAt position, which rotates the transform so that the forward position points towards the player's transform, which is what we want. And then we set the transform.position of the camera to be equal to that new vector 3 that we have defined, plus 5 because I want the camera to be higher in the sky, and minus 3 so that it can be backwards and so I can see the plane. So those are the 3 main components on how the game works. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see anything in particular. Make sure to also like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.